What would you do for a spell that scratches your back and turns red apples into green apples? Polish a statue of the greatest hero in recent memory with a gnarly mustache? And put your life on the line against an older lady or some rich family's heirloom. But that's not why you're here. Did we learn something about the Hero of the South fight against the 7 demon sages of destruction and Schlacht, the omniscient, that the manga didn't show us? This episode consists of one of the most rewatchable episodes ever, because the Hero of the South lore runs deeper than even Yamada Kanehito knows at this point, and surprisingly, the anime turned a simple side quest in the manga into one of the most beautifully animated short fights one could have asked for. For basically a throwaway footnote in our over 1,000-year elf MC's life. But before we continue, on this channel we talk about spoilers from an up-to-date manga perspective. So stay here anyways, because you can't help yourself. Going with the trend that most episodes will be covering about 2 chapters in the manga, Season 2, Episode 2, or Episode 30 overall, Minami no Yusha, covers Chapter 63 of the same name, and Chapter 64, The Demon with a Sword. Reading Chapter 63 or watching this for the first time, excluding Craft the Monk and Ancient Goatee Priest's statue, this was the first time a hero of recent memory wasn't of Himmel the Hero. It is of this other guy that turned out to be someone that felt or is even more significant than what 28 episodes or 62 chapters just so happened to leave out of the story. However, he was mentioned in episode 6 and chapter 11 by Aizen. This is basically how the Hero of the South lore tends to be. There's this one guy that did something significant, and then later on we find out something mind-blowing, and go back to what was said about him to connect these webs of mysteries together. And this episode is going to be one of the most referenced episodes ever in the lore of Frieren, because of the implications of this one fight between the Hero of the South, who has some kind of amazing clairvoyant ability, that fought against the 7 demon sages, including Schlacht the Omniscient, who is said to be able to see 1,000 years into the future. So for someone that is watching this or reading this for the first time, you don't really think of a perspective beyond everything centering around defeating the Demon King. But as manga readers, we know each arc we read makes this episode matter in a different way each time. As Frieren accepts the request in Fable Village to polish the Hero of the South statue, Stark's surprised look is basically all of us. Who the hell is this mustache guy? Frieren begins to casually drop some lore like he's actually humanity's strongest, and we get our first peek into some anime differences than the manga. First, as Frieren was explaining that there were many other heroes before Himmel that challenged the Demon King, the manga showed Himmel amongst many other probably dead heroes with them. The anime omitted this panel, leading me to believe that they were truly forgotten and won't matter for story purposes, which leads us into Frieren explaining how the Hero of the South ended up being the Sigma male with the mustache, humanity's greatest hero. Frieren explains that each 7 Sage of Destruction ruled strategic parts of the continent, mostly in the northern lands. Just as I mentioned earlier, that anything related to the Hero of the South ends up meaning more and more as the story goes along. The same can be said about anything potentially related to the southern lands, besides Fern being from the southern lands and Lawson using an ability from the southern lands in Jailware. This is now the most significant character that we know of that is confirmed from these southern lands. If any of these demon sages end up having ties to the southern lands, especially as it relates to the Foundation Festival arc with the Shadow Warriors, the Court of the Sacred Staff, Malarde, and the Great Mage Minas the Witch, this may end up answering much of our questions we have about the mysterious southern lands. And as of chapter 147, we still don't know about 3 of these demon sages. However, in chapter 147, Commander Reve's backstory does confirm that the southern lands are mostly a human versus human problem. But we have to imagine that demons that are known for deception would have some kind of influence in some way, which could be tied to these other demon sages. Solitaire even mentioned that there was a Southern Land clan that specialized in capturing demons. Going back to the silhouette of these 7 demon sages, this takes us to our very first big teaser adaptation of this panel. Experiencing this part of the story the first time, we know Demon Anya Forger, or Self-Yeeting, and Bowls the Immortal from Weirbo's backstory. Since we're all manga people here, we obviously see that the silhouette is of Mocked and Grossum. Now this confirms that there are still 7 demon sages that we know very little about. And if you guys want to hear me dive into more of the Hero of the South lore, check out my previous video, and also check out my next video where I talk about Clairvoyance. But these 3 demon sages, how they look and how they are connected in the overall Frieren story lore, will surely answer many questions that Kanehito is purposefully leaving a mystery. Frieren continues the story that the hero's party defeated 2 of the 7 demon sages, while the Hero of the South defeated 3 of them, including Schlacht. He literally wiped out the Demon King's frontline troops in a year and reached the northernmost end of the Northern Plateau that was the central supply route for the Demon King army. And we all know what's coming next. Apparently nothing. The anime decided to skip over probably the most important panels that we are all hoping to see if the anime will show us. But for now, it starts with a little puppeteering reenactment of the Hero of the South versus Schlacht, the Omniscient, and the anime sure made puppeteer Schlacht a lot more witch-like with those 3 eyes. One of the most important facts about Schlacht is that he can see 1,000 years into the future. He is the king's confidant that led the 7 demon sages to ambush the Hero of the South. The big takeaway here is the fact that the Hero of the South still remains revered in some places, especially in the Fable village, because he was the one that saved them from the 7 demon sages' reigns, adding further to the motif legend that no one was able to actually find his body. But Frieren theorizes that the remaining 7 demon sages just ended up eating him. So that confirmation that there is no real confirmation about what exactly happened in that battle will be something that will come up in the Golden Land arc, where we start to realize that this battle means a lot more than we think. As Frieren, Fern, and Stark get to cleaning, it's time for a real flashback with the Hero of the South approaching Frieren, like how Himo, Hyther, and Aizen did back then to recruit her into their party. This is the first confirmed use of clairvoyance or some kind of future sight by the Hero of the South. It naturally comes with a bit of arrogance, as he explains why he is humanity's strongest, because he can see the future. For some reason, the Hero of the South just knew Frieren wouldn't tell anyone, because telling someone the future might not make the future come true, right? Or maybe telling her is what makes the future come true. But it's also likely that Frieren just took it with a grain of salt, and her personality is pretty much apathetic to most things. As the Hero of the South brings up the 7 demon sages of destruction, Frieren actually gets a little PTSD, as we never got this silhouette in the manga, but we all know who this monster is in Mock of the Golden Land. Frieren references her fight against him 600 years ago here, and the only flashback of a panel against him would be here. Some of the themes in the second half of this episode becomes kind of like a foreshadowing for what Mock's character is gonna be. How the Hero of the South explains his future demise is quite telling about his clairvoyant capabilities. It shows how limited Serie's prophetic dream is in the Foundation Festival arc, where the whole plot revolves around an assassination attempt on her life. Serie can't see past her death using the prophetic dream, but the Hero of the South can. Likely why he kinda just accepts his death, unlike Serie. But could he see up to 1,000 years into the future like Schlacht? And if this fight's details end up being of such importance that Schlacht had Grossum wipe away Mock's memories so that Frieren wouldn't analyze it, why didn't the Hero of the South make sure to tell Frieren the details of what will happen to him? This is why for manga readers, we come back to this chapter a lot, because there is a lot of logic surrounding clairvoyance that doesn't make sense, because clairvoyant abilities differ and people can have a combination of clairvoyant abilities like Serie mentioned. The question still remains from the Hero of the South's perspective, that this was likely still the best path he could have chosen, to get yeeted by Schlacht and the 7 demon sages without knowing the details. 1 year from now, that is when his death will take place by Schlacht the Omniscient and the 7 demon sages of destruction. This is later confirmed to happen because of what Aizen's and Himmel's conversation was about hearing about the Hero of the South's death early on their journey. For impact's sake, as the Hero of the South delivers to Frieren that he dies, the anime puts the adaptation of these panels here, as we get our first real look at Schlacht the Omniscient floating down, along with a less detailed look at the 7 demon sages. For someone that wants to be spoiled with more details of what happened during this fight, the storyboarding and the deliverance of these scenes was perfect. Another detailed look into the Hero of the South's clairvoyance, he already knew if he did end up recruiting Frieren, he'd still get yeeted. So for the Foundation Festival arc people out there, we can be reminded of how much his clairvoyance and the different routes he probably tried to take mirror Serie's. I can see the future, guys. My next video is about clairvoyance. This is when the Hero of the South goes on to detail her future when Himmel the Hero shows up to recruit her into the hero's party. The anime does an incredible job setting up another unexpected anime-only scene to deliver how impactful the Hero of the South's words were. As he asks Frieren for a favor to tell Himmel this, we get to see this flashback of Frieren likely telling him what the Hero of the South told her to tell him. I promise to blaze a path to the future. I, humanity's greatest hero, the Hero of the South, even if my great accomplishments were buried and forgotten in the shadows of history. Reading the manga, I didn't really expect Frieren to actually go on and tell Himmel what the Hero of the South told her, but this scene confirms that she basically did, which creates this whole other mystery now about Himmel's reaction when Frieren told him. As it flashes back to the present, Frieren basically confirms here that the Hero of the South's future sight was on point, as everything did lead to the hero's party defeating the Demon King. You kind of forget once you start reading the manga that up until this point, we think everything revolves around the defeat of the Demon King. But the Golden Land arc Whitmock basically flips that upside down, at least with what the mystery of the fight between the Hero of the South, Schlacht, and the 7 demon sages of destruction entails. And just like that, the lore of all lores in Frieren turns into a simple side quest. As the second half of the episode adapts chapter 64, it's still 29 years after the death of Himmel the Hero in the Northern Lands of Graf Doc's domain. We all know how it goes at this point. It's a new town. Frieren wants to collect magical items and any kind of grimoire she can get her hands on. The problem? They get stuck there for days, weeks, or even months. But something is off because she's trying to be frugal and mentions she actually cares about time. We get some added slice of life mini montages stretching out much of this chapter, and the answer to our question of why Frieren is in a rush becomes apparent. This domain's Graf's attendant comes to request Frieren's help, but Frieren tries to dip. But how can you turn your back on someone that glazes you this hard? In exchange for an unknown grimoire, Frieren, Fern, and Stark must recapture a family heirloom in a sword that even his great-grandfather even commissioned the hero's party to do, that somehow got stolen again by a demon. Like what was reiterated when Ubel, Eret, and Sharp left Frieren's party. Life is sometimes about random side quests. It turns out that the sword used to belong to a demon and is something that holds special value to them that humans can't quite comprehend. This part of what Frieren says about demons and humans not being able to comprehend each other is a motif that continues to grow, like how even Himmel the Hero realized he had to yeet a goddamn kid demon, that is. Taking on this request is to pretty much not leave all the efforts before from Himmel and the others to be left in vain if it just got stolen again. So, more montages And what do we have here? A red apple. You mean green? An anime only scene, only meant to drive home the punchline later on. You know what it is when there is no music. Getting bamboozled by a hot older lady. If Goatee P was here, we might be doomed. But what can be worse than hot chicks? Human empathy. Ubel knows. The demon claims to be a priest and asks them to offer a prayer to deceive them. But Frieren checks to see if there are actually corpses there. And of course, demons feast on humans. And just like that, there are none. At least, not right there. And this just continues to drive home the fact that demons and humans are just different and can't perceive the other's way of existence, like what happened in that flashback with the demon kid. Now, in this episode, and in future arcs, this is all leading us to you know who. In what was light work in the manga, the anime shows us how a demon MILF can fight with a sword. As Stark protects Fern for not only fighting composition purposes, but for character development. We all knew demon MILFs are on the other side of their prime, and so it is only poetic justice that another older lady delivers her ray of light. Here we get a flashback of Himmel explaining that troublesome side quests are okay. So a hero must never turn their back when people need him. As it turns out in the flashback, and in present day, defeating the demon ends up saving many more victims in the future. In the manga, it doesn't really show Fern as vulnerable as she is in the anime. She doesn't actually try to pray in the manga, but does question why Frieren just pew-pewed a potential burial of a corpse. We get added context of why Frieren did attack when they do actually pray for whatever corpses are still around after the fight. That she did it because Fern was about to pray, leaving her vulnerable to the demon's attack, which was likely her strategy. The episode ends with more anime-only filler reiterating key themes of what just happened. There is something special about this sword that demons are tapping into that humans can't quite understand. Demons can never fathom hiding their power, and so it's a natural part of their nature to always reveal what kind of power they possess. Frieren goes on even further about the specifics of why demons will keep attacking them to obtain the sword. But like what we already know, demons deceive with their words, which led to one of Graf's servants into helping the demon. Due to impulses, knowing human desires, that all led to a town being destroyed and 3 villages. These are all core components of what we already understand about demons in the world of Frieren. And it's very telling of why the anime is choosing to reiterate these things that we already know about demons. Because you know, as manga people, we know, at least, to mock. That's how the episode pretty much ends, with Frieren revealing that the grimoire she got turns red apples into green apples. Who likes green apples more? I do. Well guys, I think I have clairvoyance. I will be making a video featuring the hero of the south, Schlacht the Omniscient, and the Feet Goddess.